In 1982 and prior, there was no such thing as human trafficking, not in the United States. I mean, it was never called human trafficking. It was there. We called it prostitution.
26 seconds. 26 seconds.
I came to the city of Santa Ana as a police officer in 1982, and prior to that I worked for another agency for about 4 years. So altogether I had 30 years, 26 with Santa Ana, 4 years with another agency. So the name of our ministry, of course, is Side by Side Church International, and our mission is to transform injustice locally, nationally, and internationally. We want to work side by side with law enforcement, other ministries, city officials. We want everyone to collaborate together toward the common goal of stopping injustice. And this particular injustice, of course, is human trafficking. Back in the 80s and 90s, that if you had 4 convictions of prostitution, you would go to state prison.
My biological mother had me at Chowchilla State Prison, so I had a prison number when I was born. I was transferred over in 2 days and was adopted into my family.
Around 2014, 2015, in the state of California, law enforcement and the criminal justice system began to see these, quote, prostitutes as victims. Through circumstances or through force, fraud, and coercion, they were made to go out and make money, and then that money was given to their trafficker. Finally, established laws where they say if the victim is under 18, or actually under 17, and she's out committing acts of prostitution, she cannot be prosecuted. That's just happening, 2016. When I came to Santa Ana in 1982, that track, Harbor Boulevard, was already in operation. We were literally across the street from Disneyland.
I remembered Harbor Boulevard, we worked on Harbor, we worked off of Red Hill, we worked off of First and Santa Ana. I mean, you move from state to state because that's just the way you stay put. That's the way you don't know your surroundings. Like, you get used to familiar within a familiar area. A lot of it is power and control, but it's also just to make money. You know, I had memories because out in Orange County, I had been sold across the street from Disneyland at 12 years old.
Everyone knows it's there. Everyone knows they run prostitution out of there. Everyone knows there's minors working out of it. Everyone. The city knows it, the law enforcement knows it, the state of California knows it, the churches that I work with know it, but nobody's outraged to the point of taking action.
I started to experience a lot of molestation and sexual abuse inside of my home by a family friend and by my mom's boyfriend by the ages of between 8 and 10 years old. One of the men that was sexually molesting me came back to my mom's front door. And, you know, my mother was going back and forth with him, but it took too long for me. It was either me or him.
The reason Harbor Boulevard was started through our ministry is because one of the ladies that attends our church actually lives on that track. I decided to help her to launch an outreach program that would be effective in reaching the victims. And I think if people actually came out and saw, you know, the cars backed up for half a block and 14, 15-year-old girls walking around with just a G-string on and a little top, and that's it, I think people would become very outraged.
For the first time in my life at 11 years old, a male turned to me, sitting on the couch right next to me, and said, "What are you doing at this time of night? Where's your parents? What are you doing? And what's up, you okay?" No, I'm not. No one in my life had ever asked me that, not after the sexual abuse, not after all the encounters I had experienced. No one ever wanted to kneel down to me and just kind of come to my level as a child and, you know, like kneel down before a kid and just say, "Hey kid, like, is everything all right? And like, I know what you're going through is hard." Like, I got that for the first time in my life from a stranger, from a male. I told him my life story, 30 seconds. I told him that I had been this foster youth, that, you know, my mom, I didn't know I was adopted, that I had been sexually abused, because I was this kid that was just, everything was building up inside of me that wanted to just tell people, like, just wanted to say something. I just wanted somebody to ask, and nobody had ever done that. And he said, you know, being here, you'll be safe, don't worry about it, you'll be okay. There was a gun, loaded gun on the table, drugs, and you see a gun, you think you're gonna be safe, right? Like, you must obviously think they know how to work it. And it was just my surrounding, my environment inside that house that I felt like it was gonna be okay. When I walked to the room, I seen this lady on the bed, and she didn't speak to me. She had her head down, and when I walked out, I just remember him giving this gesture as if he was giving her permission to speak once he left, basically. I didn't know that until afterwards, but he kind of gave her a head nod, and he walked the door, said, "I'll be back." I walked towards the bathroom to, kind of run my water to start bathing and stuff, and she said, like, "Hey, like, you're so pretty," and started a conversation and didn't understand that was my grooming process.
This is a victim who has been in the life for a while, and her trafficker, her pimp, her boyfriend, her daddy, trust her to the point where now she's running the girls. She's breaking the new girls in. She's sitting down watching videos, pornographic videos with the new victim to show her what she's going to have to do. She trains her about how to get the money. She trains her about maybe how to even rob the guy, take his wallet.
I ended up getting in the tub, and when he came back, I remember he started to bathe me. And that's not normal. He was a 30-year-old man bathing an 11-year-old. That was a complete stranger. But that was normal for me. He was a male, and he was older, and he could do whatever he wanted.
The bottom line is, it's definitely preying on vulnerability, and the traffickers are masters at identifying those things.
Then at that point, she talked about exchanging sex for money. She looked at me and said, you would never have to do that. You never have to do that. You're the princess, you're going to be okay here, you're going to be safe, you're going to have nice things. And it was like a one-bedroom shack, But it felt good to hear that. We ended up getting in the car, I remember, and we rode to Long Beach Boulevard was the first track that I ever worked. So he looked at me and said, "Just go with her. Don't worry, you ain't gonna do nothing." But I was scared. I was frightened. I didn't start crying until we got in the back seat of this white pickup truck. I still remember to this day this 4-door pickup truck. And she gave this man a blowjob. And I watched and started crying. After that, walking back to the car, he's like, "You're gonna go by yourself?" And he said, "You don't got nowhere to go. You don't know how to get home. Who's gonna come looking for you? Who's gonna believe you? Everything that you went through in your life." He grabbed my hair, twisted around his wrist, and started dragging me down Long Beach Boulevard, and I was screaming, and my knees were scuffing the ground.
There are basically two types of traffickers. One's a Romeo pimp, and one's a guerrilla pimp. The Romeo pimp is the one that comes and talks sweet to you and wines you and dines you for a month, take them, get their nails done, get their hair done, and then all of a sudden, one night, you're gonna go out, and it's like, go make daddy some money.
So I fell in love with both my pimps. My first pimp was like daddy, like it was real daddy, like daddy, like it gave me a sense of wanting a father. But my more relationship was with her that kept me connected for a long time, and her being the bottom bitch and having a sense of hierarchy, and wanting to work to her position and having to want to make more money than her, because that's what bottom bitches do. With my gorilla pimp, it was more, I was in love with him because people didn't understand why I wouldn't leave. Even come in contact with law enforcement and coming in contact with social services, probation, and in and out of group homes. Why don't this kid just leave? Because my normal was getting hit upside my head. My normal was sleeping with men 10 to 15 times a night. Like, that was my normal, performing anal sex and oral sex at 12, 13, 14 years old. This was normal. I didn't see nothing wrong with having a 35-year-old boyfriend. I fell in love with him. Because everything that was normal in my life that was happening had happened to me while I was a kid.
Then there's the gorilla pimp. The gorilla pimp obviously is the one who just beat you down. Just beat your ass, beat you until you go out and do what he says to do.
If I came in and said, "Hey, daddy, I can only make $600 tonight," I was getting knocked out as him talking and being upset and angry. "Dumb bitch, you stupid ass bitch, you not worth shit. Like, dumb ass bitch can't even make $600 fucking dollars. Like, what, bitch, you couldn't suck dick?" Like, in the midst of that, he'll pick up whatever he can, the phone of the room or a book in the house, throw it at you, hit you with it, and then you piss on yourself sometimes. You're so scared, you pee on yourself, then he may lock you in the room. There's been times when I got smacked in my face, like black eye, like dope fiend, and you bounce up because you're so used. That is your normal. Your normal is having a gun in your mouth, hoping it's cocked and loaded and he blow your brains away. Like, your normal is being hit upside your head and knocked out almost for a whole day, like, and waking up and with stitches, however you got them, or like that's your normal. So you learn how to deal with it. You learn how to bounce back from it. And just wake up and go about the day.
One of the things that we do in trafficking throughout the United States is we educate ministries, NGOs, Christian organizations on what they can do to safely impact human trafficking. When you train people to go out and make contact with the victims, you have to train them to be very sensitive to that victim. In other words, that victim's going to know if she's being watched or not. And she's going to communicate to your advocate team. She's not going to say, I'm being watched. She's going to say, I can't talk right now, leave me alone. And when we have a situation like that where the victims are all walking away, they want nothing to do with us, we have a car that has 3 to 4 prayer people in it. We call it our prayer car. And so we just roll the prayer car over that area and they intercede in that area. And then that trafficker, that bottom girl, whoever's watching, they'll leave. Now, then we just go away and start making contact with the victims. Now with the traffickers, they don't want any contact with law enforcement. So they know who we are. They know the church people are out there. They know what hours we're out there from until, they know when we leave, when we arrive, they know some of our cars, they probably know our license plates, but they don't want any problem with law enforcement because they know if there's a problem, they're gonna get arrested and they're looking at a maximum sentence of 6 to 10 years.
My view of men was changing. Like, I was sleeping with doctors, lawyers, officers, like probation officers, like men that were married, men that had kids my age. Like, these are not men that you see on a Carl's Jr. commercial. These are men with lives. Like, I was starting to have regulars that were career men.
The victims have said, hey, some of my best customers, or my customer has been a law enforcement official or a judge or a court appointed, whoever. And I think you're seeing a real strong push within law enforcement task forces. In other words, task forces made up of non-government agencies, nonprofits, churches, and law enforcement. So the exit training itself was created to help non-professional, non-law enforcement people, or a survivor who's a former victim, to be that contact person when the victim wants to get out. But let that survivor who's been through it talk to the victim, because she can cut through all the BS.
Women don't just jump into prostitution. There was something that led to that, or an exploitation for children. Like, you were groomed into that. You don't wake up one morning. No woman and no girl wakes up one morning and says, hey, I want to sell my body for the rest of my life and I want to make money from it. Not one. I found my voice. Like, I learned that speaking was a gift that I just knew how to do. Like, I've been emotional. First couple times I did it, wasn't really emotional, but may have been triggered by a question. But I found that it was a skill, it was a gift that God gave me to give my testimony or to just spread truth to people. And I use that platform. I've trained the FBI up in Texas. I've trained medical people, hospitality workers, law enforcement, judges, doctors, nurses, school teachers, social workers, probation officers. I've done prevention curriculums and trainings and working with youth in and out of high schools. I'm not a victim anymore, and I'm not a survivor anymore. I'm Oree. That's who I am. I don't identify as a survivor anymore. Like, I'm Oree. That's exactly who I am. That's who God designed me to be.
And it's time to go past outrage and move into action and putting pressure on cities, municipalities, and making them understand that this is unacceptable. This is America. And we're not going to allow our children, I don't care where they come from, the Bay Area or they come from Houston, if they come to Santa Ana or whatever area they come to, this is unacceptable. This is a child, and you should be taking some type of action for this child.